I never expected to hear from Melissa again after our messy breakup 16 years ago. Then suddenly her name appeared in my email inbox with a message that left me speechless. "Ryan, I need your help. My husband left me, and my 15-year-old son. You need to step up and take responsibility." I was confused until I read further, and realized she was implying that I might be the father, despite the timeline making that impossible. When I refused, she enlisted my sister Amanda in her delusional campaign. Things escalated from harassment to something far more dangerous when they targeted my fiancée Kate first with vicious lies about infidelity, then showing up at her home with truly frightening intentions. Drop a comment letting me know where you are watching from, and hit that subscribe button if you have ever had to deal with someone trying to rewrite history to serve their own needs. To understand how shocking Melissa's reappearance in my life was, you need to know a bit about our history together. We dated during my sophomore and junior years of college, when I was 20 and she was 19. Our relationship lasted about 18 months, between 2005 and 2007, and while it seemed serious at the time looking back, it was marked by immaturity on both sides. Melissa was my first serious girlfriend. We met in a psychology elective class, paired for a project that required several weeks of collaboration. Initial academic discussions evolved into coffee dates, then dinner dates, and eventually a full relationship. In those early months, everything seemed perfect. She was intelligent, passionate about becoming a teacher, and shared my interest in hiking and independent films. My friends liked her, and I was welcomed into her social circle. The problems began to emerge around the 1-year mark. Melissa became increasingly possessive, checking my phone when I wasn't looking, and creating arguments if I spent time with friends without her. She began to pressure me about the future, speaking about marriage and children, with an urgency that felt premature given our age and place in life. When I suggested we slow down and focus on finishing our degrees, first she would alternate between tearful accusations that I didn't love her and cold silences that could last for days. Perhaps most concerning was her relationship with the truth, which I began to realize was remarkably flexible. Small lies at first, stories about why she was late, or explanations for missing class gradually expanded to elaborate fabrications about family emergencies or health issues when she wanted attention or needed to explain her behavior. When confronted with evidence of these deceptions, she would become defensive, twist my words, and somehow transform herself into the victim of my unfair accusations. The breaking point came during spring break of my junior year. I had made plans months in advance to join a study abroad information session in New York, a 3-day trip that would help me decide on applying for a semester in Spain. Melissa had originally supported this plan but changed her position as the date approached, claiming she couldn't bear to be apart for those days. When I gently but firmly explained that this was important for my education and future career, she appeared to reluctantly accept my decision. The night before my flight, she called me hysterical, claiming she had been in a minor car accident and needed me to come immediately. I rushed to the location she described, only to find no evidence of any accident. When I called her back, she admitted she had made it up because she needed to know if I would choose her in an emergency. That moment of manipulative clarity ended our relationship. I told her it was over, blocked her number, and still made my flight the next morning. The aftermath was chaotic. For several weeks, she alternated between pleading messages sent from friends' phones and vicious character assassination within our shared social circles. She spread rumors that I had cheated, that I was emotionally abusive, that I had borrowed money from her I never repaid. Many mutual friends chose sides, and the campus suddenly felt much smaller and more hostile. By the end of that semester, things had finally calmed down. I heard through mutual connections that Melissa had started dating someone new, a senior named David, and had apparently moved on. I focused on my studies, applied for, and was accepted to the Spain program, and spent my entire senior year abroad. By the time I returned to the States for graduation, Melissa had transferred to another university, and our paths never crossed again. After graduation, I moved to Chicago for my first job in marketing, built a career over the next decade, and gradually lost touch with most people from that period of my life, including anyone who might have kept me updated on Melissa's whereabouts or circumstances. I occasionally heard bits of information from old classmates I remained connected with on social media. She had indeed married. Someone named David had become an elementary school teacher, as planned, and had at least one child. These details came through casual conversations about whatever happened to, and never seemed particularly relevant to my life. For my part, I had a few relationships during my 20s, none lasting more than a couple of years. I focused primarily on my career, earned an MBA, and eventually started my own digital marketing consultancy that proved successful enough to provide a comfortable life. 3 years ago, at 35, I met Kate through a client project. She was the graphic designer brought in to help with rebranding. Our professional collaboration quickly revealed a deeper connection, and we began dating once the project concluded. Kate was everything Melissa wasn't secure in herself, straightforward in communication, and respectful of boundaries. She had her own thriving design business and a close circle of friends that she welcomed me into without expectation or pressure. After 2 years together, I proposed during a weekend trip to Michigan's Upper Peninsula, and we began planning a wedding for the following summer. Life felt settled and positive. I had long since filed away the Melissa chapter of my life as a youthful learning experience with no current relevance. Then 16 years after our breakup, with my wedding just 4 months away, the email arrived that would throw everything into chaos. "Ryan, I need your help. My husband left me and my 15-year-old son. You need to step up and take responsibility. We should talk about arrangements for Jacob to come live with you, at least part-time. I have always known the truth, and now it is time for you to face it too." The message was so unexpected and bizarre that I initially thought it might be a scam or a case of mistaken identity. A 15-year-old son would have been born in 2006 during my relationship with Melissa. Yet we had always been careful about contraception, and she had never once mentioned a pregnancy before our breakup in 2007. Moreover, simple math made the timing suspicious. We broke up in March 2007, and if she had become pregnant near the end of our relationship, the child would be 16, not 15. After recovering from my initial shock, I responded with a brief, clear message. "Melissa, I am sorry to hear about your difficult situation. However, I cannot be the father of a 15-year-old child. The timing doesn't align with our relationship, and we were always careful. I wish you and your son the best, but I cannot take responsibility for a child who is not mine." Her response came within minutes, much longer, and filled with a mixture of anger, guilt, manipulation, and vague threats. "You always were selfish. I never told you I was pregnant because I knew you would react exactly like this. Jacob deserves to know his real father, not the man who raised him and then abandoned us. I don't even need a DNA test. Anyone who sees him would know he's yours. The eyes, the smile, even the way he laughs. I have kept your secret for 15 years, raising your son while you built your perfect life. The least you could do is meet him and help us financially. David left us with nothing. If you refuse to take responsibility, I will have no choice but to make this public. How would your fiancé feel about learning? You have a son you've ignored all these years." The message contained so many red flags that my immediate response was to block her email address and consider the matter closed. The timeline inconsistencies, the refusal to consider a DNA test, the immediate jump to threats, all suggested this was an attempt at manipulation or extortion, rather than a genuine belief that I was the father of her child. I discussed the situation with Kate that evening, showing her both messages and explaining the history with Melissa. Kate, practical and level-headed as always, agreed that blocking contact was the right approach for now, though she suggested documenting everything in case the situation escalated. I believed that would be the end of it. I was wrong. 3 days after blocking Melissa's email, I received a call from my sister Amanda. Amanda and I had always had a complicated relationship. 3 years younger than me, she had struggled with various issues throughout her 20s, including a brief period of substance abuse and several toxic relationships that our family had helped her navigate. Now in her 30s, she had achieved relative stability with a job as an administrative assistant at a real estate office and her own apartment, though she still relied on our parents financially more often than seemed appropriate for her. Age. "Ryan, I just had the most interesting conversation with your ex Melissa," she began without preamble. "Did you know you have a son?" I felt my stomach drop. "Amanda, whatever she told you isn't true. The timeline doesn't even make sense. We broke up in March 2007, and she's claiming to have a 15-year-old son, not 16. She explained that. Amanda countered quickly. "Jacob was born premature, almost a month early. She has the birth certificate showing he was born in December 2007, 9 months after you broke up. She says she found out she was pregnant right after the breakup, but was too hurt by how you ended things to tell you. The new information made me pause, if only momentarily. A December 2007 birth would indeed place conception around March when we broke up. But the shifting narrative only increased my suspicion. That contradicts her first email, which said she always knew the truth and kept it from me intentionally. Now she's saying she was too hurt to tell me, Amanda, you know how Melissa was. She's manipulating you. I think you're the one being manipulative. Amanda shot back. She showed me pictures of Jacob. He looks exactly like you did at that age. The resemblance is uncanny. People see what they want to see in faces, I argued. And even if there is some resemblance, that doesn't prove anything. Why is she contacting me now after 15 years? Instead of when she first found out she was pregnant, why wait until her husband leaves? Because she didn't need your help until now. Obviously, Amanda said with the exasperated tone she often used when she thought someone was being deliberately obtuse. David was raising Jacob as his own. Now that he's gone, she needs support, and Jacob deserves to know his biological father. The conversation continued in circles, with Amanda becoming increasingly hostile toward my skepticism. What concerned me most was her mention that she had given Melissa my home address and current phone number so you two can sort this out in person. When I expressed alarm at this boundary violation, Amanda dismissed my concerns, saying, "She's the mother of your child. She has a right to contact you." After ending the call with Amanda, I immediately informed Kate about this new development. We agreed to be vigilant about unexpected visitors and to install a simple security camera at our front door. I also sent a clear text message to the number Amanda had given Melissa. "This is Ryan. I understand you've been in contact with my sister. I need to make it absolutely clear that I do not believe I am the father of your son based on the inconsistent information you've provided. If you genuinely believe I am, the appropriate next step would be a legal paternity test. Please do not come to my home or contact my fiancé. Any further communication should go through my attorney." I included the contact information for a lawyer friend who had agreed to field any messages. The response was immediate and hostile. "You can't hide from your responsibilities forever. Jacob and I will get what we deserve from you one way or another." The threatening tone prompted me to save screenshots of all communications and file a report with the local police department, establishing a record of the situation without requesting any immediate action. The officer who took my report seemed sympathetic, but noted that no laws had been broken yet, though the implied threat in her message was concerning. For several days, things were quiet. Then Amanda called again, this time to inform me that she had invited Melissa and Jacob to stay with her while they sorted things out with me. They had apparently driven from their home in Wisconsin to Amanda's apartment in Chicago, a 3-hour journey that underscored the determination behind Melissa's campaign. "They'll be here for 2 weeks, Amanda informed me. That should give you plenty of time to meet Jacob and work out a support arrangement." "I'm not meeting anyone or arranging anything without a paternity test," I insisted. "This whole situation feels like a scam, Amanda. Why are you so convinced by someone you haven't seen in 16 years against your own brother?" "Because I'm not blinded by selfishness," she retorted. "And because I remember how you treated Melissa back then, breaking up with her right before your trip, abandoning her when she needed you." This revisionist history of our breakup suggested Melissa had shared a very different version of events with my sister, one that painted me as the villain. It was frustrating but not entirely surprising given Melissa's pattern of manipulating facts. The situation escalated dramatically the next day, when Kate received a friend request on social media from Melissa, followed immediately by a lengthy private message. Kate called me at work, her voice tight with tension, as she read it aloud. "I thought you should know the truth about the man you're planning to marry. Ryan has a 15-year-old son he's refused to acknowledge or support. He abandoned me when I was newly pregnant, and has rejected every attempt at contact over the years. Now that my husband has left, Ryan is still refusing to take responsibility. Ask yourself if this is really the kind of man you want to commit your life to, someone who could turn his back on his own child and the woman who loved him. I have pictures of Jacob I can send you. The resemblance to Ryan is undeniable." Kate, to her immense credit, found the message more annoying than concerning. "She doesn't know that you've already shown me everything," she said. "This is clearly an attempt to drive a wedge between us." We agreed that Kate would not respond and would block Melissa on all platforms. Unfortunately, this direct approach to Kate seemed to be just the beginning of their campaign. The following day, Kate began receiving calls from unknown numbers at her design studio. When she answered, the caller would either hang up immediately or breathe silently before disconnecting. That same evening, she discovered a handwritten note tucked under the windshield wiper of her car parked outside her studio. "He's lying to you. Ask him about the birthmark on his shoulder. Jacob has the same one." This escalation from online contact to physical tracking and approaching Kate's vehicle crossed a serious line. We filed another police report, this one, resulting in an officer calling Melissa to issue a verbal warning about potential harassment charges if the behavior continued. Rather than deterring her, this official contact seemed to push Melissa into more direct confrontation. 2 days later, when Kate arrived at her studio in the morning, she found Melissa and a teenage boy waiting outside the entrance. According to Kate, Melissa immediately began speaking rapidly and emotionally gesturing at the boy, presumably Jacob, and saying, "Look at him. You can see the truth. Ryan is his father. Look at his eyes, his jaw." Kate, maintaining remarkable composure, simply said, "This is inappropriate. Please leave before I call the police." She took out her phone and began recording, which prompted Melissa to grab her wrist. Though not violent enough to leave marks, the physical contact was clearly intended to stop the recording and intimidate Kate. At this point, a neighboring business owner who had witnessed the confrontation came outside and asked if everything was okay. Melissa and Jacob quickly left, but not before Melissa called out, "He cannot keep denying us forever. Tell Ryan this isn't over." When Kate called to tell me about the encounter, I left work immediately and met her at the police station to file a formal report about the physical confrontation and make a statement about the ongoing harassment. This time, with evidence of physical contact, the police took the situation more seriously and said they would follow up with Melissa directly. What we didn't anticipate was my sister's direct involvement in the next phase of escalation. While Kate and I were at the police station, Amanda was evidently working on her own plan to force a confrontation. The true breaking point came 3 days after the incident at Kate's studio. I had just finished a client meeting when I received a panicked call from our neighbor, Mrs. Levin, an elderly woman who had lived next door to our house for decades. "Ryan, dear, there are 2 women and a teenage boy trying to break into your backyard," she reported, her voice trembling with alarm. "They came in a blue sedan and parked in front of my house. When I asked what they were doing, the older woman said they were family members with an emergency, but you gave me that list of approved visitors last week and they're not on it." I thanked Mrs. Levin for her vigilance, asked her to call the police if the individuals didn't leave immediately, and then called Kate, who was working from home that day. She didn't answer. My calls went straight to voicemail 3 times in succession. Heart pounding, I left my office without explanation to my colleagues and drove the 15 minutes home at unsafe speeds, calling the police en route to report potential intruders at my residence, with my fiancée possibly in danger. The dispatcher confirmed they would send officers immediately. When I arrived, the scene that greeted me was chaotic. 2 police cruisers were already parked on the street. In my driveway stood Kate, visibly shaken but physically unharmed, speaking with a female officer. Near the patrol cars, 2 other officers were questioning Melissa, Amanda, and a teenage boy I assumed was Jacob. Later, I would get the full story from both Kate and the police report. According to Kate, she had been working in our home office when she heard persistent knocking at the front door. Checking the security camera we had installed, she saw Melissa, whom she recognized from photos, along with Amanda and Jacob. She chose not to answer, hoping they would leave. Instead, they had moved to the back of the house, where Amanda used the spare key she had from previously watching our house during a vacation, something I had completely forgotten about, to unlock the back door. Kate, hearing the door open, had locked herself in the bedroom and called 911. Melissa, Amanda, and Jacob had entered our home and begun searching rooms, calling out for Kate. According to Amanda's later statement, their intention was simply to facilitate a meeting between Jacob and me and between Melissa and Kate to resolve the situation like adults. Melissa's statement contradicted this, claiming they believed Kate was in danger from me and were performing a welfare check based on concerning information about our relationship, a completely fabricated explanation. Whatever their claimed intentions, the reality was that they had illegally entered our home and frightened Kate, who had barricaded herself in our bedroom until police arrived. Officers had arrived quickly due to Mrs. Levin's call, entering through the still open back door and finding the 3 intruders in our living room. By the time I arrived, the immediate situation was under control, but the legal and emotional implications were just beginning to unfold. Kate, despite her obvious distress, had declined medical attention and was primarily expressing anger rather than fear. They kept saying they needed to show me evidence that you were lying about Jacob, she told me once we had a moment alone. Amanda was the worst, claiming I was being manipulated and needed to hear the truth from them. The responding officers, after taking statements from everyone involved, arrested Melissa for breaking and entering and harassment. Amanda, having used a key she technically still possessed, was in a more ambiguous legal position, but was cited for criminal trespassing, with a court date to follow. Jacob, being a minor, was not charged, but was clearly shaken by the entire situation. As they were placing Melissa in the patrol car, she continued calling out accusations and threats. He knows the truth. Ask him about the birthmark. Jacob deserves his father's support. This isn't over. The officers asked if we wanted to pursue a restraining order, which we immediately agreed to. They advised us on the process and suggested we change our locks immediately, which we arranged that same afternoon. After the police left with Melissa and Amanda, the latter not under arrest, but accompanying them to the station for further questioning, and Jacob had been picked up by a relative, Melissa had called Kate, and I sat in our living room trying to process the violation we had just experienced. I cannot believe Amanda would do this, I said, still struggling to comprehend my own sister's role in the home invasion. What could Melissa possibly have told her to justify breaking into our house? Kate, remarkably centered despite everything, took my hand. People believe what they want to believe sometimes. Amanda has always been jealous of your stability, your success. Melissa probably played into that, made her feel important as the advocate for justice, or something similar. The aftermath unfolded rapidly. We filed for and received an emergency temporary restraining order against both Melissa and Amanda, prohibiting them from coming within 500 feet of us, our home, or our workplaces. We changed all the locks and security codes for our house and installed additional cameras. I contacted our parents, who lived in Florida, to explain the situation. They were horrified by Amanda's actions, but admitted she had always been easily influenced by stronger personalities, particularly women she admired. Melissa was released on bail the following day, with formal charges of breaking and entering harassment and violating the previous police warning about contact. Amanda received a court summons for criminal trespassing but wasn't detained. Jacob, we learned through the police, had been placed temporarily with Melissa's sister while the legal issues were addressed. Perhaps the most surprising development came a week later when my lawyer received a communication from David Walker, Melissa's estranged husband. Having heard about the incident from their son, he reached out through his attorney to provide critical information. Contrary to Melissa's claim of abandonment, David had left after discovering evidence of her infidelity. More importantly, he explained that they had struggled with infertility early in their marriage and had pursued fertility treatments to conceive Jacob. He had medical records confirming this and offered to provide them to refute Melissa's claims about my paternity. This information confirmed what I had suspected all along, that Melissa's sudden reappearance and claims about Jacob were a calculated attempt to secure financial support after her marriage ended, rather than any genuine belief about paternity. The fertility treatment records which David's attorney promptly provided established conclusively that Jacob had been conceived through medical intervention in early 2007, not through any relationship with me. Armed with this evidence, my attorney filed for a permanent restraining order against Melissa and sent formal cease and desist letters regarding her false paternity claims. We also pressed forward with the criminal charges, refusing the initial offer of a plea deal that would have reduced the breaking and entering charge to simple trespassing. 6 months have passed since that terrifying day when Melissa and Amanda broke into our home. The legal consequences for both women have been significant, though not as severe as they might have been. Melissa ultimately accepted a plea agreement that included probation, mandatory counseling, and a permanent restraining order. Amanda received community service and probation for her role, along with a restraining order that remains in effect for at least 2 years. The most painful outcome has been the complete severing of my relationship with my sister. Despite multiple opportunities to acknowledge the seriousness of her actions, Amanda has maintained that she was just trying to help a child connect with his father, and that my refusal to even consider the possibility justified their extreme measures. Our parents have attempted to mediate without success, as I remain firm that any reconciliation would require genuine accountability and recognition of boundaries that Amanda seems incapable of understanding. As for Jacob, I learned through David's attorney that paternity testing confirmed David is indeed his biological father, conceived through fertility treatments, exactly as the medical records indicated. The revelation that Melissa had fabricated the entire paternity claim has reportedly led to additional tension in their already strained co-parenting relationship with David, now seeking primary custody based on Melissa's increasingly erratic behavior. Kate and I postponed our wedding by 3 months to allow time for the legal proceedings to conclude and for us both to process the trauma of the home invasion. We were married 2 weeks ago, in a small ceremony attended by close friends and my parents, though noticeably without my sister. Despite everything we experienced, or perhaps because of it, our relationship has emerged stronger, our communication deeper, and our boundaries clearer. The entire ordeal has prompted significant reflection on my part about the relationships in my life, both past and present. I've had to confront uncomfortable questions about what I might have missed during my relationship with Melissa that could have predicted such extreme behavior years later. While I don't believe I bear responsibility for her actions, I have gained insight into the importance of recognizing manipulation and dishonesty early in relationships. I've also had to examine painful truths about family dynamics, particularly how my sister's persistent sense of competition with me created vulnerability to Melissa's influence. According to my parents, Amanda had always felt overshadowed by my achievements and stability, making her susceptible to Melissa's narrative that painted me as the villain who had abandoned his responsibilities while building a perfect life. Perhaps most importantly, this experience has reinforced the value of choosing a partner like Kate, whose steadiness and clarity remained unshaken even when confronted with invasion accusations and chaos. Throughout the ordeal, she never once doubted my account of the past, or my character recognizing the situation for what it was, a desperate attempt at manipulation by someone whose relationship with reality had become dangerously distorted. The restraining orders provide legal protection, but we've also implemented practical measures for ongoing security. We moved to a new home in a different neighborhood with a proper security system. We've become more private about our daily routines and personal information, and we've established clear protocols for handling any unexpected contact from either Melissa or Amanda in the future. While we hope the legal consequences will deter any further harassment, we remain vigilant. Melissa's determined pursuit of her false narrative, even in the face of irrefutable evidence, suggests a disconnection from reality that cannot be entirely predicted or controlled. The best protection is awareness, preparation, and the strong support system we've built around us. For others who might face similar situations, unexpected claims from the past, family members who cross boundaries, or coordinated attempts at manipulation, I would offer this hard-earned wisdom. Document everything from the first contact. Establish clear boundaries, immediately involve law enforcement early, rather than hoping the situation will resolve itself, and most importantly, recognize that you cannot reason someone out of a position they didn't reason themselves into. Melissa's desperate attempt to insert herself back into my life after 16 years with a completely fabricated paternity claim and the willingness to break into our home reveals much more about her own psychological state than any reality about our past relationship. My sister's willingness to participate in this scheme speaks to the power of narrative over fact when the narrative aligns with existing resentments or insecurities. The greatest loss in all of this has been the relationship with my sister, which may never recover. I remain open to reconciliation if she ever truly recognizes the gravity of her actions, but I no longer feel obligated to maintain family relationships that come at the expense of my safety, my fiancé's well-being, or our shared peace of mind. Sometimes the healthiest family boundary is a permanent one. Have you ever encountered someone from your past who tried to rewrite history to serve their current needs? How did you handle maintaining boundaries with family members who refused to respect your decisions or relationships? Share your past experiences in the comments below. Your insights might help someone else currently navigating similar difficult situations. If this story resonated with you, please like this video and subscribe to hear more about establishing and maintaining healthy boundaries, even when those boundaries are tested by the people closest to you. Thank you for joining me on this journey, and remember that prioritizing your safety and well-being is never selfish. It is the foundation upon which all healthy relationships must be built.